Welcome in to part 2, where we're going to be looking up all of the 1,500 names in Epstein's little black book. It's a Rolodex of Epstein's closest associates. And I want to focus on this black book because the term black book has a pretty specific meaning that leans towards personal and confidential and oftentimes romantic contacts. And I especially want to focus on this black book because Director of the FBI Patel and Deputy Director of the FBI Bongino have both conflated the black book with Epstein's client list in the past as if they were the same thing. And in the case of Epstein's black book, it's not the well-known celebrities that are most interesting. As interesting as that is nonetheless, it's the obscure names that no one has really heard of that are the most interesting to me personally. And so far in part 1, we came across Dutch Duke, a world banker, and Alec Baldwin in Epstein's little black book, along with the owner of a children's tech company that ChatGPT said may have been a front. And we only made it to like page 5 out of 100. So make sure to check out part 1 when you're done here. Also in part 1, we went over Epstein's ties to intelligence, the Nixium cult, Silicon Valley elites, and discussed Epstein's non-prosecution quote-unquote sweetheart deal that legally prevents authorities from ever prosecuting Epstein's co-conspirators. And this was the result of a Florida grand jury from way back in 2006. And Epstein's Florida grand jury has been in the news lately, as some of you guys might know. So before we start looking up some more of these 1,500 names in Epstein's black book, we're going to go over some documents about this Epstein grand jury. So let's get started. First, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Drop a comment, some emojis, and that way you can stay updated on Epstein's disclosure through these series of live streams that we're going to be doing. So, what is this Florida grand jury? Quick backstory for those not tapped into what's going on. After almost 2 decades of civil lawsuits and public scrutiny and investigations tying Epstein's intelligence and honeypot blackmail operations using minors procured through human trafficking, President Trump and his administration are now taking the position that all of it is just a conspiracy theory made up and fueled by the Democratic Party, which on its face seems like an odd conclusion considering Bill Clinton and his daughter are implicated in being somehow involved with the Epstein milieu. Moreover, Epstein disclosure has been a bipartisan interest since President Trump's first term. In fact, Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's right-hand woman, so to speak, was arrested by Trump's DOJ on charges specifically related to her role in Epstein's trafficking operation. And that was in July of 2020. She was then convicted by a jury in December of 2021, the following year, on 5 counts that included trafficking of minors, conspiracy to commit trafficking of minors, transportation of minors with intent to commit, and conspiracy to transport minors with intent to engage in sexual activities, all of which were connected to her role in the Epstein trafficking operation. And this Epstein operation, so to speak, has been under ongoing investigation for decades that was part of bipartisan interest and bipartisan prosecution across multiple administrations and convicted by a grand jury as actually having existed in the case of Ghislaine Maxwell. So this idea that all of it is just a conspiracy theory made up by Democrats is just really an insult to the intelligence of the American people. President Trump actually lost a lot of support because of this, with him telling his supporters they're, quote, stupid people, and quote weaklings, end quote, comparing them to fake news for even talking about it. And I don't really have an outline for this, so we're just gonna kind of be jumping around here, and I'm still trying to get used to doing live streams, so please bear with me, guys. So this right here just shows Ghislaine Maxwell being convicted in the Epstein operation. This is just an article by AP News. Let's see here. I'm trying to make some more room. Okay, here we go. So this just shows Ghislaine Maxwell. This is when she was first convicted back in 2021. Girl's as young as 14 years old. And it says in the 90s and the early 2000s at Epstein's homes in Florida, New York, and New Mexico. And everybody's familiar with his Palm Beach home and his Manhattan home. Not a whole lot gets talked about his New Mexico, his New Mexico spot. So I really do want to spend some time eventually in some later streams actually going a little bit further into it. And then what else do we have here? This is just the tweets from Trump calling everybody weaklings that were paying attention to this, and him calling it a hoax. Because the last stream that we had, it was just right after the administration came out and said, there's nothing to see here. And since then, it's kind of taken a different tide. It's kind of changed tides a little bit. So here we go. We got the New York Post actually covered this about him raging against his supporters, calling them weaklings. And right here on the right side, I got this image here. This is a protester. And I only downloaded this because I thought this was really interesting, and I wanted to include this. Here at the far right side, right around the middle, it says Universal Music Group. And I thought that was really interesting, just because the Diddy trial that just recently led up, there was I don't want to say rumors. I didn't follow that case too much, but I just heard through the grapevine that Universal Music Group was somehow implicated in Diddy's blackmail scheme, which eventually has been reduced to prostitution, I think. I think that's what it all got reduced to. Even though there was underage minors involved, what have you. But yeah, I wanted to bring this up really fast. So, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time touching on Trump's connections to Epstein. But there is something that I do want to show you guys that has not been seen anywhere else, and it's actually something that I just realized right before the stream. So, first, let's get into it. I'm gonna play you guys a couple quick videos, just of Trump basically lashing out at his supporters here, and see what he has to say since the original disclosure that there's nothing to see here. There is no client list. So, like I said, keep in mind in the back of your head that this has been going on for multiple decades. That started with civil lawsuits, and eventually ended up getting turned into a grand jury, which we're going to be talking about later, and federal indictments. But just keep in mind when you're watching this video that that this has been going on for decades. This hasn't just been going on over the last few years since Trump got into office. This has been decades, multiple administrations. So just keep that in mind. Let's go ahead and play this and see what he has to say.
Mr. President, I know you want to move past all this intrigue over the Epstein files, but I do want to ask you to clarify something you said this morning. You said this was all a hoax. Has your Attorney General told you this was a hoax? What evidence have you seen of that?
No, it's not the Attorney General. No, I know it's a hoax. It's started by Democrats. It's been run by the Democrats for 4 years. You had Christopher Wray and these characters, and Comey before him. And it's a bad group. It started, actually, look at the Steele dossier that turned out to be a total hoax. the 51 agents, the intelligence, so-called intelligence agents, it was a hoax. It's all been a big hoax. It's perpetrated by the Democrats, and some stupid Republicans and foolish Republicans fall into the net. And
some stupid Republicans fell into the net of the Democrats.
so they try and do the Democrats' work. The Democrats are good for nothing other than these hoaxes. They're bad for policy. They're bad for picking candidates that can get elected. Like in New York, we have a communist running. He may get elected too, actually, but he'll destroy the city. No, it's I call it the Epstein hoax. It takes a lot of time and effort. Instead of talking about the great achievements, we've had a great gentleman yesterday, as you know, went on CNBC and he made the statement that Trump may go down as the greatest president of all in the United States. And instead of talking about the things we've achieved, we've had tremendous achievement. They're wasting their time with a guy who obviously had some very serious problems, who died 3-4 years ago. I'd rather talk about the success we have with the economy, the best we've ever had, and all of the things we've done, including the Middle East. I mean, you see it. Instead, they want to talk about the Epstein hoax. And the sad part is it's people that are really doing the Democrats' work. They're stupid people. Yeah, go ahead.
Stupid people. Stupid for paying attention to the Epstein hoax, as he calls it. So I'm going to move on from here. We're going to go to this next clip, and then we're going to move on. And I'm not trying to spend a whole lot of time on Trump and what he's saying. I just wanted to update everybody since the last stream. So we're going to move on, and this is him on the tarmac, Air Force One, with Howard Lutnick. And that's the main reason why I'm going to play this next video. It's not so much what Trump has to say. It's just introducing Howard Lutnick into this here. So
I know you've urged people to move on, but I'm curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story and so upset about how it's been handled?
I don't understand it. Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I really don't. And the credible information's been given. Don't forget, we went through years of the Mueller witch hunt and all of the different things, the Steele dossier, which was all fake. All that information was fake. But I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring.
it's pretty boring.
And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think, well, really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going.
Only bad people want to keep this thing going. And you could see there on the right side, Howard Lutnick just cheesing over this. He's the Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick. So he says only bad people want to keep talking about this, like the fake news. Drop it, everybody. Just drop it.
And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think, well, really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say let them have it.
Let them have it. Anything credible. Who gets to decide what's credible and what's not credible? Well, I guess that's up to interpretation. So Howard Lutnick, right there to the right of him, he actually just got revealed as owning property that was Jeffrey Epstein's. It got passed on to him. And that's not just one property. That's actually quite a few properties here. If you take a look at this, I think it was Newsweek that actually went into this. Yeah, it was Newsweek. Howard Lutnick's ties, Jeffrey Epstein come under scrutiny. This was just a couple days ago, maybe a week ago. His real estate ties to financier and child trafficker Jeffrey Epstein are once again drawing scrutiny. A 2019 investigation by Cranes found that Epstein, in addition to his infamous townhouse in Manhattan, had significant links to the adjacent property which real estate records show is still owned by Lutnick. So multiple properties here that was Jeffrey Epstein's. It's now owned by the Commerce Secretary. And this kind of just goes into what we were just talking about here. So, like I said, not trying to spend a whole lot of time on Trump here. Next thing we're just going to touch on really fast. I mean, because this is the only reason why I want to touch on it, because it seems like it's very defensive of a situation on President Trump's part. And this was some news that came out back in, it was actually resurrected from this old Reddit post, 1995. Epstein and President Trump had the same girlfriend in the same year, and there it just has a bunch of pictures. But this got picked back up. I found this old Reddit post bringing it up. I don't even know when this was from. Let's see. You can tell the format's completely different. This isn't even what Reddit even looks like anymore. But actually, this might have been recently. It says 13th of July, 2025. I don't know. But there's some pictures, and then this got picked up by the list. And that's not even really a big deal, okay? It's not even so. They shared this, they're Eskimo brothers. I mean, that's not incriminating, just like being in Epstein's black book, Donald Trump being in Epstein's black book, it's not very incriminating. Knowing them, knowing each other. This is a little bit weird, though. And this got picked up. This was in 2019. There was a exclusive party, members only club in Palm Beach. And it was supposed to be a calendar girl competition. And I don't even mean to laugh because this isn't even funny. But, and it wasn't a competition with a whole panel. It was just Epstein and President Trump. So, and this got revealed by a man named George Horonay. He's a Florida-based businessman who ran American Dream Enterprise. He had organized this at the president's request. He says, I arranged to have some contestants fly in, Mr. Horonay recalled in an interview on Monday. At the very first party, I said, who's coming tonight? I got 28 girls coming. It was him and Epstein. Mr. Horonay, who had just partnered with Mr. Trump to host the events at his casinos, said he was surprised. Quote, I said, Donald, this is supposed to be a party with VIPs. You're telling me it's you and Epstein? So a little bit sus there. So I'm not here to make judgment. I'm not here to pass judgment. I'm just here to just comb through some news. And the reason why I even brought this up, yeah, of course it's pretty sus. But the main reason why I want to bring this up is to touch on another huge connection that I just came across right before the stream. Between President Trump and Epstein. Because everybody knows that President Trump had a series of beauty pageants and all about the fanfare. Did the reality show thing, all about the fanfare. So one can even still come to the conclusion that he just ran. It's just a one-time thing. What's the big deal? And I want to pull this up really fast because this is some footage that just got resurrected from 1991. Another pageant where President Trump was in, and judging girls as young as 14, young children in these beauty pageants, which isn't, it's not, that is still completely legal. There are beauty pageants for adolescent teenagers. But this is something that I found that was kind of a pretty big deal. So there was a woman named Nadia Marcinko, okay? And I'm gonna pull her up really fast. Before we even play this other video, I'm gonna pull her up really fast. Nadia Marcinko. And who is this? Well, this is somebody that helped Jeffrey Epstein procure girls, and she was actually a pilot for the Lolita Express. Now let's play this here. I'm gonna fast forward.
Are you still?
Marcinko. Helped Jeffrey Epstein groom victims. Hasn't been seen. Now, that's her there on the left. Now I'm going to play this other video that just got revealed from 1991. Of a beauty pageant with underage girls where President Trump was a judge.
The 58 contestants participated in an exhaustive round of personal...
Now, who is that right there? We have President Trump right there in the middle. And then to his left, to the right of the screen, we have Nadia Marcinko.
An exhaustive round of personal interviews designed to help our judges discover what makes each one special.
You're 5'9" reading? Serious, huh?
There she is again.
The 58 contestants participated in an exhaustive
So that's two pageants.
round of personal interviews designed to help our judges discover what makes each one special.
You're 5'9" reading? Serious, huh? We made Nashua again tonight before the Okay, thank you very much, Amy.
The concentration was intense inside.
So just very interesting. I just wanted to pull that up. Like I said, we covered some of President Trump's connections to Jeffrey Epstein before, but I'm not trying to spend, because there's, like I said, there's 1,500 names inside this black book. So just a hyper focus on one, you know, it just seems to me like it's just one of a million connections here. So let's move on. Anyway, switch up the settings here. So yeah, that's two pageants. Interesting as it is, let's move on. So this was, there was one other connection to the administration other than Howard Lutnick that we touched on in the last stream, which was a U.S. attorney at the time, Alexander Acosta, and he ended up brokering a sweetheart deal, as we discussed earlier, that where nobody else and none of Epstein's other co-conspirators could be prosecuted. So let's go ahead and play that, actually. Let's go ahead and play so you guys can actually get an idea as to what this because a lot of people think that this grand jury information is the recent time he was arrested. No, this is from 2009. There was a grand jury. And it basically, this is the entire story of this grand jury, okay? So, he got brought up on state charges. A grand jury came together and said, we don't see anything to see here. There's civil lawsuits. There's allegations and evidence of hundreds of girls. And the grand jury decided to only charge him for 2 counts of prostitution, 2 counts of felony prostitution, and made him register as a sex offender. And so, or no, excuse me. It was only one count of I think it was solicitation, and he no time served. He didn't have to pay any restitution, any of the victims or anything. So the U.S. attorney said, "Hey, look, we are not very happy with that. So you got to come back with something stronger." Because the police chief saw what was going on in Palm Beach County and said, "Hey, look," he referred him to the feds. So the feds investigated him for over 53 no, it was actually 60 indictments, as you guys are going to see here shortly, and said, hey, look, we're going to indict him on all of this. So they sent in the U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta to broker a deal, something better than no jail time, no restitution or anything. So the U.S. Attorney Acosta brokered something that has forever been referred to as the sweetheart deal, where nobody else could be prosecuted that was a co-conspirator of Epstein. He only had to serve 13 months in jail, and half of that time was spent outside at his house on work release, and he had to register as a sex offender. When the feds already had him under 60 indictments that he was looking at if they didn't get it figured out at the state level. Looking at 300 plus years. So the Miami Herald was the first person to break this story. And this was in 2019. This came out. In Palm Beach. So they had Jeffrey Epstein was accused of assembling a large cult-like network of underage girls with the help of young female recruiters to coerce into having sex acts behind the walls of his waterfront mansion. As often as 3 times a day. And the eccentric head fund manager, whose friends included former President Bill Clinton and Donald Trump and Prince Andrew, was also suspected of trafficking minor girls, often from overseas, for sex parties at his other homes in Manhattan, New York. In his other homes in Manhattan, New Mexico, the Caribbean. This is according to the FBI records. Facing a 53-page federal indictment, Epstein could have ended up in federal prison for the rest of his life. But on the morning of a breakfast meeting, a deal was struck. An extraordinary plea agreement that would conceal the full extent of Epstein's crimes and the number of people involved. This is known as the sweetheart deal, by the way. This is what I was telling you guys about. Between Alex Acosta, and this was at the Marriott. This was at a deal between Epstein's lawyers, Epstein, and Alex Acosta in a Marriott that this ended up coming about. So let's go ahead and play this video of Acosta explaining this sweetheart deal and explaining the grand jury in his own words. Let's go ahead and play this video here. Because this is what the grand jury testimony is, what the president wants revealed. And the grand jury testimony is what let Epstein off the hook. So let's listen to Alex Acosta explain this in his own words.
You could tell me maybe this didn't happen, but there was it right.
I can't comment as to the specific number, but he had multiple victims. Yes.
So he ends up getting a deal where he's I guess a couple of prostitution felony charges state charges. The federal charges were there ever federal charges? Because the Miami Herald article said that he was facing 53 federal indictments.
There were. If I could just provide a brief overview, Congresswoman.
Yes, please. I would appreciate it.
This matter, this was a state matter, and it was presented by the then state attorney to a grand jury in Palm Beach County. The grand jury reviewed the evidence, looked at what was available, and the grand jury recommended a single charge that would have required no jail time.
If I might just, not to be rude to interrupt you, but before it went to the state, it was my understanding that it was actually, he was facing 53
that is incorrect.
Was he facing any federal charges?
That is incorrect, Congresswoman. This started as a state matter.
But what happened? I mean, there was an article that said, I mean, you could tell me maybe this didn't happen, but there was an article that said that that Epstein's attorneys negotiated a deal with you at the Marriott Hotel.
If I could walk you through the facts, and this is supported by the public record. So
walk us through these facts, Acosta. Let us know exactly what happened here. What happened with this Marriott deal? What happened with this grand jury? Let us know here.
this was a state matter. It was investigated by local police, and it was taken to the state attorney's office. The state attorney took this matter to a grand jury, presented all the evidence.
How did you get involved?
I'm leading up to that.
All right.
Presented all the evidence to the grand jury. And the grand jury considered it and recommended one charge that would have required no jail time, no registration at all, and no restitution to any of the victims. He would have, in essence, gotten away. And that's when the local police went to federal authorities. And those that have been involved, you're an attorney, Congress.
So as soon as the grand jury came back with nothing, the police chief was pissed. Said, what is this going on in my town? And he took it to the feds. The feds investigated it, came up with 60 indictments. And then they sent Alex Acosta to go figure it out. Because this guy's not going to get away with nothing. So they sent Alex Acosta, and instead of him going away for the rest of his life, as what the Fed was saying was inevitable, he got a sweetheart deal where he served 13 months in jail, half of it was spent at his house, and some deal which was determined as illegal was signed saying that nobody could prosecute Epstein's co-conspirators. So explain this, how you are just a superhero, Acosta. Please explain this to us. After it was referred to the feds, once the grand jury came back, once the Florida grand jury came back and said, no jail time, nothing to see here, the police chief went to the Fed, was pissed, and let us know what the Fed did.
Those who have been involved in the legal system know that once someone is arraigned, because he had been arraigned on that one state charge, once someone's arraigned, it's exceedingly rare, it is rare, for a federal prosecution to also take place. But our attorneys looked at that. And
well, I just want to pause this one more second. He's saying that when somebody is arraigned at the state level, it's very rare for the feds to pick up charges on somebody. But that happens all the time. People end up getting state charges, and the Fed come in all the time and pick up federal charges. So just because somebody is arraigned at the state level doesn't mean that the feds can't get involved. The police chief went to the feds came up with 60 indictments, and they sent in Alex Acosta. The U.S. Attorney's Office sent Alex Acosta. The USAO sent Alex Acosta in there. And what did Alex Acosta do? Let us know. Let us know how you're a superhero, Alex Acosta.
And they said, Epstein should not be able to walk away with no jail time, no registration, and no restitution. And so they informed his attorneys that if something else wasn't done, that a second federal prosecution could take place, because, and this is something that's important for the public to understand, you can be prosecuted by the state, and if that's insufficient, you can also be prosecuted by the federal government.
I have a limited time, so I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be rude with you, but there was a report in the Miami Herald that you actually had a meeting with Epstein's attorney at the Marriott Hotel in West Palm Beach, where he convinced you not to either drop the charges or not look into the charges. And then there is some mention that perhaps Mr. Epstein gave you information about other people. Is any of that correct?
There's a lot of information in the public record that is not correct. I saw that report in the Herald, and it referenced October 2007, I believe, and I looked at the date on which the agreement was signed, where the federal authorities said they would defer to the state attorney if he actually went to jail, if he actually registered as a sex offender and paid restitution. And the date for that meeting post-dated the agreement. It didn't predate.
Did that meeting take place?
Congressman, this was 12 years ago. I don't remember, but I do know, because I looked it up. I'm like, what's going on here? That the agreement was actually signed in September, and the meeting took place in October. after the agreement was signed. And so the answer is that that could not have been part.
So he just got done saying that even after this deal was signed, this sweetheart deal was signed, where nobody could go after Epstein's co-conspirators, and he just had to get this jail time. After that, he met with Alex Acosta to provide him intelligence. Voluntary intelligence. Now, why would he do that? If it wasn't a part of the plea agreement was already signed. This, if you could call it a plea agreement. So he met with Alex Acosta, and here he is admitting on the record, verifying the record, saying this was after the plea agreement was signed, that he went and took information and intelligence from Jeffrey Epstein.
Of that agreement.
Okay, so I'm going to yield back just to say this, that my community is still very upset about this, and I hope there will be another opportunity to really flesh this out and give you an opportunity to answer.
Let's go back for a second and listen to him.
The agreement.
Listen, I want to go back and let him explain really fast that even after this plea agreement was signed,
It was actually signed in September, and the meeting took place in October after the agreement was signed. And so the answer is that that could not have been part of that agreement.
Okay, so I'm going to yield back just to say this, that my community is still very upset about this, and I hope
it wasn't even a part of the agreement. The intelligence he provided him was not even a part of the agreement.
Registered as a sex offender and paid restitution. And the date for that meeting post-dated the agreement. It didn't predate.
Did that meeting take place?
Congressman, this was 12 years ago. I don't remember, but I do know because I looked it up. I'm like, what's going on here? That the agreement was actually signed in September, and the meeting took place in October after the agreement was signed. And so the answer is that that could not have been part of that agreement.
Okay, so.
Oh, there we go. So, there he is, on record. Epstein was providing intelligence to the United States government. So he was an intelligence asset, according to the record. If anybody tries to tell you different, I mean, Pam Bondi, I respect everybody's decision in the matter of official record, but at the end of the day, you got to go by official record. So, the president's U.S. attorney is going to come back and say, he wasn't. Well, actually, no. Wait, I take that back. I don't even want to put words in her mouth, because she did not say that he was not an intelligence asset. She said that she would get back to everybody about whether he was an intelligence asset. So I take that back, because the New York Times actually picked up on that, and they said that she was a little bit wishy-washy about that. So she wasn't sure, and she was going to have to get back to the news and the media about whether Epstein was. But here, according to U.S. Attorney Acosta, he's saying that he was providing intelligence, not even a part of the plea deal. So
I'm going to yield back just to say this, that my community is still very upset about this, and I hope there will be another opportunity to really flesh this out and give you an opportunity to answer all these allegations, because I think we can all agree that a very vile, disgusting man who molested underage girls, lots and lots of them, really got off the hook. So, and with that, again, I'm going to take you up on helping me on this bipartisan trafficking bill, and I yield back.
So anyway, what else do we got here? Before we get to running down some more of these names. Oh, breaking news. Coming to you right now, guys. Breaking news. Before we get to the black book and run down some more names. Everybody knows about the surveillance footage that didn't even really show Epstein's cell, that apparently was missing a minute at first, and then the news came out that it was actually missing more time, and there was notes put on it on the raw file, and so there's actually a couple missing minutes out of Epstein's video. Breaking news. We found the missing couple minutes. So I'm gonna play this for you guys here. Let me know which segment you guys like best down in the comments out of all these missing minutes. Metal Gear Solid, shout out.
For the Emperor! Eat false god! Gentlemen, I never really was on your side. Hasta la vista, baby.
I think that one might be my favorite.
All right, Ramblers, let's get rambling.
Shall I give you despair? Let's rock.
I don't know, the Duke Nukem though. I don't know, I think that one might be my favorite, to be honest with you. the Darth Vader.
Bomb has been planted.
Alright, so that's that. Let me know in the comments which one you guys like best. Yeah, and this is the kind of the weird thing about all of this here. Is if this whole thing was a hoax, like if this whole Epstein thing was just a complete hoax, then that would mean that all of those people that came out the other day with the binders, I know you guys know what I'm talking about. They came out with the binders, and they're like, oh, it's Epstein Files Part 1. As if there's a Part 2. Like, you would figure that there's probably a Part 2 if there's a Part 1. And so these guys all came out with the Epstein Files Part 1, and it was, you know, the same information that everybody already knows, you know, which is another reason why I think this black book has significance, because this is the government officially telling you that, hey, this is all of this. Even though you guys already know, what else do you want us to tell you? So I think it's almost in a way that it's just more of a reason why I think this black book is so significant, why people should be going over these 1,500 names, because it's like people know about 50. If you ask people who's involved in Epstein, they'll tell you about maybe 10. Tell you about 10, 15. I don't even know if people would tell you 20 people involved in the Epstein scandal. If you were like, who all was involved? They would name off, you know, the usual suspects, as it were, so to speak. So that's why there's 1,500. There's all sorts of names people don't know about. So, and this black book came out. Just want to make this clear, because I don't think I said this on the very first stream. This black book came out because it was Epstein's property manager from his Palm Beach home that actually stole this black book from him as like a collateral. Because I guess there was a falling out between Epstein and this guy. And, I mean, I didn't read that there was a falling out. But what I can imagine is that for some reason Epstein didn't want this guy around, and he kept this black book as some sort of collateral. So, you know, it's like a dead man switch, so to speak, just to keep him still alive. So, for whatever reason, I don't know. That could be something that people still probably need to investigate, is what was the beef with this, the reason why this guy stole this black book. And he gave it to one of the attorneys representing one of the victims of Epstein. And so once it became court record, it became public, and then you can commit, you know, I guess somebody did a FOIA request for it. And they got it redacted. And So yeah, there's all sorts of names and people, and everybody got a binder, and nobody really, I don't think anybody really went through it. And actually, now that I think about it, there was something, I think I just got this binder here. I don't know if I got the binder. I'm not going to say that I did. But somebody posted, I'm actually going to, before we even go through this black book here, I'm going to play something else really fast about the list. And then as this is playing, I'm going to look up what I just found. So, this is a song called The List by Jesse Wells. I don't know if I played this one on the last stream, so I'm just going to go ahead and play it now. It's called The List by Jesse Wells. Let me know what you guys think about it.
You got your bucket list, your grocery list, your list of things to do. You got a list of all your wishes, that's a wish list, dude. You got your Amazon and Santa Claus and Tooth Fairy too. But I know a list that don't exist, and buddy, so do you. It's the Epstein list, it's a mystery list with a twist. It's a myth of a list that we all just miss. Be an optimist, not a pessimist. If you wish to persist, it's probably best you forget that list. Now what were we talking about? I don't remember, but I can sleep a lot better at night. Yeah, life can just go along. Knowing this 10,000 hours in with bulging eyes. Now tell me them fellas ain't compromised. Any implicated dude will tell you. Anybody on the big list knows just how far the folks in charge will go to keep the status quo. So when the war bell rings, the song that they'll sing is a song that we well know. I hope. So it's off to war I go. Well, they said it's gonna fix it, but now they're all complicit. They owe. So it's off to war we go. Send the poor off to war. What else are we for? They owe.
Alright, so I hope you guys like that. There. That was a good one. Alright, so let's see what else we got here. Oh yeah, this just came out the other day too. So, there might have been President Trump might have had a Freudian slip, is what we call it, where he accidentally might have said that he was in the files or in the list. He doesn't clarify, but involved in the situation here. So he says in this interview with I can't remember who it is. You'll see here in a second. He says, "So many things we found were fake with me." He said they found so many things that were fake with him. So, which kind of implies that he's in it? Let me know.
If they were run by Chris Wray and they were run by Comey, and because it was actually even before that administration, right? They've been running these files, and so much of the things that we found were fake with me. And so much of the things that we found were fake with me. And so much of the things that we found were fake with me.
So, yeah, I don't know.
They were run by Chris Wray.
I don't know. But that came out the other day. Let's see what else we got here. I had like I said, we don't have any order or structure here. We're kind of just running down the list here. Let's see what other things I have to show you guys here. Oh yeah, I mean, so Ghislaine Maxwell is ready to testify before Congress about Epstein's secrets. But just to kind of piggyback on to that non-prosecution agreement that got signed with Acosta that we were talking about earlier, here is Ghislaine Maxwell saying that she was even surprised that Epstein got indicted the second time around, the most recent time, actually by President Trump's Department of Justice. She was even surprised because of the non-prosecution agreement, because they couldn't go after him again. Everything was sealed. But according to the Herald here, the Herald says that since they published the Perversion of Justice in November 2018, a federal judge ruled the non-prosecution agreement brokered by the then South Florida U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta was illegal. And then July 6, Epstein was arrested on sex trafficking charges in New York. So, that is why, that's the only reason why he was able to get prosecuted again. It's because this judge came out after the Miami Herald did the hit piece and said that that deal Trump's labor secretary signed, the sweetheart deal, when he was a U.S. attorney, was illegal. It's the only reason why he got arrested again. So let's listen to Ghislaine Maxwell saying that she was even surprised that he even got arrested again. Sorry guys, that was the wrong video. That's her coming out and saying she's going to testify before Congress. Alright, let's see here. Technical difficulties.
Oh, Maxwell in England. It's going to, if you're at work, you miss it. And if you're not, you get to go out. I believe that he was murdered.
First she said she believes he was murdered. And now she's about to say she was even surprised that he even got prosecuted again.
Well, I was shocked. And I wondered how it had happened. Because as far as I was concerned, he was going to, I was sure he was going to appeal. And I was sure that he was covered under the non-prosecution agreement. But
because the non-prosecution agreement, she was even surprised he got arrested again. Because the non-prosecution agreement, nobody could go after anybody. So, let's see what else we got here. This is actually really important. This just came out a couple days ago. I want to show you guys. Before we get into this black book, I promise we're going to get into some of these names. Promise. But this is something that's actually really important. So this is Ron Wyden just came out the other day. And he details an investigation into Epstein's Treasury records. And he's demanding the DOJ to release these files. So let's go ahead and play this.
Senator from Oregon.
Mr. President, Donald Trump has made some far-fetched statements over the last few months, but a stunner in the last few days was his claim that the Jeffrey Epstein matter was a hoax and a scam. Here is why the president is wrong. The figure at the center of this story was an ultra-rich, well-connected sex trafficker. He was a serial rapist of women and young girls. And for some reason, the Trump administration, that claimed they'd be the most transparent administration ever, turned on a dime. The president had run on a campaign with a promise to expose the Epstein files. Now he and the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, say, nope, nothing to investigate. When it comes to Epstein and sex trafficking, all these claims are just ludicrous. I want the American people to know that that's wrong. If you want to know why, just look at the latest report from our investigators that was discussed in the New York Times this morning. Now, somewhere in the Treasury Department, Mr. President, locked away in a cabinet drawer, is a big Epstein file that's full of actionable information. Follow the money details about his financing and operations that await investigation. Last year, the Biden administration allowed our investigators to look at portions of the file. We did that at the Treasury building. Here is what it says. Treasury's Epstein file details, Mr. President, 4,000 4,725 wire transfers. Let me repeat that. 4,725 wire transfers, adding up to nearly $1.1 billion flowing in and out of just one of Mr. Epstein's bank accounts. If you ask me, that is more than 4,000 potential lines of investigation right there. Hundreds of millions more flowed through other accounts. That's even a lot more to investigate. The file shows that Mr. Epstein used multiple Russian banks, which are now under sanctions, to process payments related to sex trafficking. A lot of the women and girls he targeted came from Russia, Belarus, Turkey, and elsewhere. One shudders to think about the kinds of people who must have been involved in trafficking these women and young girls out of those companies and into the Epstein web of abuse.
So, just to make that point clear, I'm sure that a lot of this was probably discovered through the Ghislaine Maxwell file. There's probably a lot of, in that discovery, there's probably a lot of financial records that tie her right back to him. So this automatically opens the door up to what other finances were there that was going towards this. And I think Ron Wyden is the head of the finance committee, the Treasury Finance Committee, I can't remember. And he's saying, let us investigate this. Give us these records. Let's let him continue.
Again, these are all potential leads, Mr. President, the Department of Justice ought to be digging into. This is about years and years of international sex trafficking. None of this is a hoax. None of it is a scam. And I'd like to say I consider it insulting to the intelligence of the American people for the Trump administration to simply say there is nothing to investigate here. Now, when the Trump administration came in with a lot of fanfare about transparency and openness, I said, I'm going to follow up on that. So I wrote to the Attorney General, Ms. Bondi, Treasury Secretary Dissent, FBI Director Patel, and I asked them all to produce the Epstein file to the Senate Finance Committee so it could be reviewed. In fact, I've made that request multiple times. The Trump commitment to transparency based on the response didn't mean a whole lot because they just refused. Here's what one Treasury official wrote back to me. I'll quote here. The Department of Treasury has previously made documents available relating to the matter in response to your inquiries. Accordingly, we understand that you have the information you seek from the Treasury related to this request. We thank you for your attention to this important issue. Mr. President, for anybody who's familiar with how these discussions go in Washington, D.C., what I just read was code for the bureaucracy saying, you're asking for information, go pound sand. The Trump administration may be trying to close the books on the Epstein sex trafficking. But I want it understood as a senior member of the Senate Finance Committee, where we spend a lot of time looking at where substantial sums of money are going, particularly if they may be promoting wrongdoing and helping to evade taxes. We are going to stay on this fight to hold the wealthy individuals accountable for the harm that they clearly were involved in injuring the young women and others in this sex trafficking. So I'm going to have more follow-up for Attorney General Bondi very quickly. As for today, Mr. President, if she doesn't want to do the investigating, doesn't want the DOJ to do it, Let me just restate my original demand. Have that Treasury information given to the Senate Finance Committee and have us on a bipartisan basis do our work. That's what we do in important investigations. If the Trump people believe they need additional authority to carry out the requests that I make again this afternoon, let me offer to help them write the bill myself. The idea that there is nothing more to investigate, not when you have 4,000 wire transfers, many of them associated with the possibility of wrongdoing and sex traffic promoting. The idea that
this guy is fired up about this. 4,000, he says. Fired up.
you have that and there's nothing to investigate when it comes to the Epstein sex trafficking operation is ridiculous. Pam Bondi was the Attorney General in the state of Florida, where a lot of the Epstein crimes were committed. The Attorney General ought to know better, of all people. Mr. President, I can't...
Wow, I did not know that. Pam Bondi was the Attorney General in Florida when all of this was going on? Whoa. And now she's trying to say there's no there? Whoa. Wow. AG in Florida when all of this was going on in Florida. Whoa, I didn't know that. Wow. Okay, the plot thickens. Let's listen to him finish.
Begin to understand the president's handling of this, or why he thinks this is just going to go away. But I'm here to say that our investigators have spent 3 full years looking into this. And the reason why is because we feel so strongly about the horror of sex trafficking and our commitment to root it out.
Dude is fired up about this. Committed to rooting it out. And that's the thing, is this whole thing was prosecuted under President Trump, his first term. And these guys went through it all the second term. All of Biden's term, investigating it. And now it's nothing to see here. Like, that's wild. I can tell why this guy is fired up right now. Imagine spending over 3 years on something and then just told to shut up. Like, you know what I mean? Once you put all the pieces together and you're investigating something and doing all of this, I can see why this guy is fired up right now. Let's let him finish.
The President of the Senate is new to this body, but I'm sure he's dealt with these issues before. You can't have a much bigger horror in front of you than sex trafficking abuse. So we're talking about real evil done to women and girls by Jeffrey Epstein. And Mr. President, nobody gets to sweep that under the rug. I yield the floor.
Whoa.
From Oregon.
This guy just finished off by yelling, addressing the president and yelling. Nobody is against the law. So what else do we got here? So before we get to the black book, I want to show you guys what I just recently found. So let me go ahead and switch this back over here. This is thousands of pages that I just found. I don't know what it is. It's on Document Cloud. Completely open to the public. Anybody that wants to check it out. I'll leave a link in the description. This is 2024 documents related to Epstein. If I can even... Talking about Ghislaine Maxwell. I gotta zoom out here. Hold on. This is just too much. Geez. So anyway, like and subscribe to the channel, guys. Quick shout out. I want to do a quick shameless plug really fast. If you guys want to support the channel, like and subscribe and leave a comment. You guys can also check out my books. I got 5 of them now, 6 of them now. I don't even remember. I still have a lot of work compiled that I still have to publish. If you guys want to check it out, it's a little something for everybody. So I'll leave links to all this stuff in the description if you guys want to support the channel. I'll never ask any of you guys for money. I'm never going to shill for money and ask for super chats and do any of that stuff. If you guys want to, check out the books, and that's all the support that that I could ask for. Just getting this information out. So yeah, let's get back to it after my quick shameless plug. Let's go ahead and get back to it here. See, there's so many pages, even when I scroll just a little bit, it just completely goes haywire. So this is Ghislaine Maxwell and her Julie Brown, the Miami Herald. Okay, so the Miami Herald was the first one to expose all of this, versus Ghislaine Maxwell versus Virginia Giuffre. Wow, this is a lot of documents. So this isn't, I wasn't sure if this was the grand jury information that came out, that this just got dropped and nobody knew it, because I'm not sure that there's actually a law that says that once information is released to the public through official channels, that it has to be publicized. So I wasn't sure if this just got released recently. It was just uploaded recently. But this is a whole other 2,000 pages that I have no idea what all this. Okay, so Ghislaine Maxwell is the defendant, plaintiff, with Alan Dershowitz, which is Epstein and Trump's lawyer. Michael Cernovich. I mean, this is wild. This is wild. This is a lot of stuff that I just recently found out about. So I'm gonna leave a link to this. If you guys want to check it out and maybe go through it and leave a comment, let me know what you're doing, what you find. See, in this, there's all these names that we know. There's a lot of names that we don't know. Virginia Giuffre was a victim. I argue that she was a victim, but she did that well into adulthood. So the grooming process, whenever somebody reaches adulthood and they're actually doing the grooming, they go from being a victim to a groomer. But I mean, it's well established that a lot of people that have been abused in the past, they go on to be the abuser. So whenever you go from being the groomed to the groomer, it's a very similar situation. And in the eyes of the law, the law is clear. You know? So I argue that she was a victim. Virginia Giuffre was a victim during some of this, and she was an abuser during other times. So, and where that line is, I'm not going to be the one to say it. You know, I don't know. But she's now passed on. Right before all of this came out, that there's nothing to see here, she ended up allegedly committing suicide. But there's 2,000 pages of this, so I just wanted to show you guys this before we actually move on and like going through names in the Black Book. Let's see if there's anything else that I got for you guys before we jump into the Black Book. Let's see. Alright, one more thing before we get into the Black Book. So, Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's right-hand woman, so to speak, she's now wanting to speak to the Trump administration about coming forward about things. I don't know, providing intelligence or whatever the case is. So this is an article, her discussing it. Ghislaine Maxwell, lawyer, asked for Donald Trump's help. The deal maker. So I don't know exactly what she's wanting to talk about. I don't know exactly what she's going to say. If she's going to ride with the whole grand jury narrative, I already went over about how the grand jury basically said the grand jury is the whole reason why he got off with 2 felony prostitution charges and didn't end up spending life in prison and completely avoided 60 federal indictments. We already talked about the sham of this grand jury. So if she's going to run with the grand jury narrative and say, what testimony is she going to give? That there's nothing to see here? Is that going to be enough to get her a pardon or have the Supreme Court re-look at her case? Because the DOJ already looked at her case and denied her appeal once. So the only way, as of right now, allegedly, the only way that she can actually have her case overturned is from a presidential pardon or from having the Supreme Court look at her case. And apparently the Supreme Court has, the DOJ or the Supreme Court has pushed back looking at it for the Supreme Court a few times. So I'm actually going to play something really fast because this is an interesting take. I'm not a lawyer, but this is an interesting take on what has recently transpired since Ghislaine Maxwell said she would come forward. So this is an interesting overview, I should say. I don't even, he has his own take on it towards the end, but it's just kind of an interesting overview. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not fully familiar with Ghislaine Maxwell, but this is something I found and I want to put it out there. So take it with a grain of salt. That's all I'm going to say. Let's go ahead and check it out. And here we go.
A few days ago, we spoke about the impending effort by Ghislaine Maxwell, who is Jeffrey Epstein's associate, to have the DOJ review her case. Now, yesterday was the last day, the deadline for the DOJ to be able to do this. Can you explain what happened in this effort?
So Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirator, convicted co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell, went to trial, was convicted, sentenced to 20 years, filed an appeal. The appellate court affirmed the conviction, rejected her appeal, and then she asked the Supreme Court to take her case up, let her argue that her conviction should be overturned. Interestingly, the Trump administration, the Solicitor General's office, asked the Supreme Court for a couple of extensions because apparently they weren't quite ready to take a position, a little bit curious. Maybe they were just really overworked, but they finally filed their reply to Maxwell's request that the Supreme Court take up her case, and they are now on record as saying the Supreme Court should not review her case. So inferentially, they believe her conviction and her 20-year sentence should stand. So now we have to wait to see what the Supreme Court does. Will they accept the case for review over the Department of Justice's objection, or will they just wash their hands of it, refuse to accept the case, and that will pretty much be the end of the legal proceedings unless Donald Trump's DOJ decides to somehow intervene in her case legally in the future. And this old prosecutor can envision a couple of ways they would be really unusual, but a couple of ways that DOJ might be able to do that.
Is there any way that some of the information that we're getting from the Trump administration now might have an impact on her ability to litigate this case? And specifically what I'm asking about is, you know, the Justice Department is saying that there's no client list. And so if there's no clients, then what, you know, the argument that you hear even from these Trump supporters, if there are no clients, then how do you get the pimp, so to speak, Ghislaine Maxwell? What has she done? Because the administration refuses to even say that there were any clients available. And so can she come forward and say, hey, this administration is saying that you know, there are no clients here, and so what am I doing here? Is that something that she could put forward as some defense?
You're beginning to sound like an experienced criminal defense attorney, because in fact, if now the Trump administration, Pam Bondi and her Department of Justice, are making claims like not only there's no client list, but I actually heard some account, I don't know if it was from a reliable source or not, that what the Trump administration or Trump surrogates are floating was Obama made this whole thing up. Well, wait a minute. Your Department of Justice took her to trial and convicted her of significant crimes committed in concert with Jeffrey Epstein, and now you're saying it was all a fabrication? You know, if she has an enterprising legal team, and I'm sure she does, she could file a motion based on what's called newly discovered evidence. All of a sudden, the Trump administration is saying this whole thing was some kind of a political inside job, a fabrication, and yet they introduced evidence and a jury convicted her based on what? Evidence you're now claiming is fabricated. Now, mind you, Brian, I am extremely skeptical of anything that tumbles out of, you know, Donald Trump or Pam Bondi's mouth about the Epstein matter, because it all seems to be really just for the court of public opinion at this point. But to answer your question directly, anything that Pam Bondi, for example, represents is or is not evidence in the Epstein matter could absolutely be used by her attorneys to try to get a court to reopen her case and maybe give it another look.
Okay, so now I want to go back to what you were saying before. You had given some options in terms of the ways that the DOJ could intervene that are probably a little bit more unorthodox than what we would normally expect.
Yeah, so here are some of the things that I've been thinking about that the Trump administration could consider. Of course, one is a pardon, a presidential pardon. Let's assume, and all of this is hypothetical, let's assume Maxwell is contemplating talking to a reporter, talking to an investigative journalist about, for example, the Epstein client list or other matters that, you know, might be of searing public interest to people. Donald Trump and his DOJ could swoop in and say, you know what? If you remain, you know, quiet, if you don't give media interviews about all this, we'll pardon you. Now, Brian, that would be a pretty unsavory deal to strike, using a pardon to buy somebody's silence because you don't want it to hurt you politically. But presidential pardons have wide berth, according to this Supreme Court, and Donald Trump can wield them in pretty much any way he wants. There are other legal vehicles, like a Rule 35 motion to reduce somebody's sentence in the event that, you know, let's assume that a witness who has been convicted at trial, sentenced, and exhausted all of his or her appeals. After all that, they come forward, they say, you know what? I can give you the shooter on the grassy knoll. I have some really blockbuster evidence about the crimes of others, but I'm sitting here doing a 20-year sentence. So if you want the information I have, and I'm willing to testify about it, you're gonna have to do something for me, and that could look like a Rule 35 reduction in somebody's sentence, filing a motion to reduce a sentence. So there are ways. I'm not saying that the Trump administration or Pam Bondi would be interested in striking that kind of a deal with a Maxwell, but you know, there are still avenues, even after all appeals are exhausted, there are still avenues where the Department of Justice can insert itself and still have an impact on the sentence somebody is serving.
The reality is that even if the administration is not coming out right now and saying that they've struck up some deal to keep Maxwell quiet, because maybe she does have damaging information, maybe she has information that's damaging to Donald Trump himself or somebody in his administration, and logic would lend itself to that, because why else would...
I'm also going to say, too, I want to stop this really fast, because he's making it seem like, oh, yeah, this guy could have damning information on Trump, so of course she's going to want to make a deal. She could have any information on anybody and want to strike a deal. So far she's had attorneys. I don't know if she's ever tried to strike a deal and ever tried to roll over on anybody, or if she knew that as soon as she did, maybe she would end up meeting the same fate as Epstein, because she's already admitted that she thinks that Epstein was killed. So maybe that's why she hasn't said anything so far. But with everything being so politicized, I don't know if she's trying to leverage that spotlight against anyone trying to. Because think of it, if she ended up coming up, having officially, quote unquote, officially committed suicide, and Epstein did too, everybody would know something was up. Everybody would immediately know something was up. And the same thing with Jean-Luc Brunel, especially. So Ghislaine Maxwell would really be number 3, because Jean-Luc Brunel, which was Jeffrey Epstein's French connection, ended up committing suicide too when he was being faced with doing time in connection to Jeffrey Epstein's operation, and he ended up committing suicide, allegedly. So Ghislaine Maxwell is probably, wanting to be smarter than that and not say anything, and maybe just she got 20 years and maybe she's just trying to sit there. I don't know. And she'll risk her 20 years instead of trying to say anything, because it just seems like this is just all the way up through, if you're at the highest level of the executive branch, through multiple administrations on both sides of the aisle, are you sure you really want to say anything? If those are the guy that you're trying to go up against and you're trying to speak out against, his friends are that connected, are you sure you want to say anything? So that would be 3 suicides in a row, if Ghislaine Maxwell bit the bullet in connection to all of this. And that there's probably way more of people that ended up coming up at the wrong side of whistleblowing, so to speak. So yeah, I thought that was an interesting take. Maybe you guys wanted to check it out. That is BP News. Shout out to BP News. If you guys want to go check that out. Let me see what else I got for you guys here. I think that might be all of it. I think we can start getting into some of these names now. So let's see here. And one more time, I really want to hammer home this non-prosecution deal that got signed with Alex Acosta, Trump's then Labor Secretary in 2017. I really want to hammer this home, just because it's so important as to why there's nothing to see here. This is the grand jury. This is the result of the grand jury, is non-prosecution agreement. So whenever it's the president says he wants to come out and reveal what the grand jury says, the grand jury said that nothing was happening except prostitution, which there's no such thing as prostitution if it's a minor. That's immediately trafficking. So now I want to show you guys this. This was the Department of Justice's official report, the executive summary into the investigation of the U.S. Attorney's Office in this Epstein prosecution. So this is going to tell you guys the whole story as to exactly what happened with this grand jury, exactly what was going on at the time. Just if you guys are hearing word about grand jury being declassified or being FOIA'd, you should at least know what the grand jury thought. So it says the Palm Beach, Florida Police Department, the PBPD, say that 5 times fast, PPPD, the Palm Beach, Florida Police Department began investigating Jeffrey Epstein in 2005 after the parents of a 14-year-old girl complained that Epstein had paid her for a massage. Epstein was a multimillionaire financier with residences in Palm Beach, Florida, New York, and other United States and foreign locations. The investigation led to the discovery that Epstein used personal assistants to recruit girls and to provide massages to him, and in many instances, those massages led to sexual activity. After the PBPD brought the case to the state attorney's office, a Palm Beach County grand jury indicted Epstein. This is at the state level on July 19, 2006. For felony solicitation of prostitution. However, because the police chief of Palm Beach and the lead detective were dissatisfied with the state attorney's handling of the case and believed that the state grand jury's charges did not address the totality of Epstein's conduct, they referred the matter to the FBI in West Palm Beach for a possible federal investigation. So charges got brought at the state level. A grand jury decided it was just solicitation of prostitution, no big deal. And the police chief said, no way, not in my town, and referred it to the FBI. So here it says the FBI brought the matter to an assistant U.S. attorney who opened a file with her supervisor's approval and with knowledge of then U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta. She worked with 2 FBI agents to develop a federal case against Epstein, and in the course of the investigation, they discovered additional victims. In May 2007, the AUSA submitted, this is the Assistant U.S. Attorney General, this Assistant U.S. Attorney, the AUSA, submitted to her supervisor a draft of 60-count indictment, 60 federal indictments, outlining charges against Epstein. She also provided a lengthy memorandum summarizing the evidence she had assembled in support of the charges and addressing the legal issues related to the proposed charges. So this is Super Cop here. I want to know who this lady is. She submitted her supervisors. I want to know who this is. Super Cop. 60-count federal indictment. She said, not today. Not today. This grand jury is not about to let this guy off with 2 solicitations. Got Epstein with a 60-count indictment. So for several weeks, following the submission of the prosecution memorandum and proposed indictment, the AUSA supervisors reviewed the case to determine how to proceed. At a July 31st, 2007 meeting with Epstein's attorney, the U.S. Attorney's Office offered to end its investigation if Epstein pled guilty to state charges, agreed to serve a minimum of 2 years incarceration, registered as a sex offender, and agreed to a mechanism through which victims could obtain monetary damages. So basically, he served 2 years, 13 months is what he actually did. Half of it was spent at his house on work release, so he wasn't even inside the jail for half the time. And then he paid all the victims off, which I'm pretty sure ended up coming to the amount of like $200 million, like $250 million ended up getting paid out, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. Put it in the comments. So no 60-count indictment. They worked a deal with the U.S. Attorney's Office through Alexander Acosta, and this was that Marriott deal that was talked about at the Health and Human Services committee hearing with Alexander Acosta that I showed you guys earlier. The U.S. Attorney's Office subsequently engaged in additional meetings and communications with Epstein's team of attorneys, ultimately negotiating the terms of a state-based resolution of the federal investigation, which culminated in the signing of the MPA on September 24, 2007. That's a sweetheart deal. The MPA required Epstein to plead guilty in the state court to the then pending state indictment against him and to the additional criminal information charging him with a state offense that would require him to register as a sex offender, specifically procurement of minors, blah, 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 blah. Let's see, 12, I'm trying to skip to, I'm not trying to get too far in the weeds here. I'm trying to skip to all the juicy stuff here. In exchange, the USAO agreed to end its investigation of Epstein and to forego federal prosecution in the Southern District of Florida of him, 4 named conspirators, and, quote, any potential co-conspirators, end quote. Nobody could be prosecuted if they were connected from him, if he did this little bit of time here. Victims were not informed of or consulted about a potential state resolution or the MPA, prior to its signing. And apparently the victims were being led on as if there was still an ongoing investigation when there wasn't. So there was no officially there, and that resulted from this state grand jury. So I'm not too sure what whenever this administration says that they're going to release the files of the grand jury, I'm not sure it's going to say much, everybody. It's just going to say, well, we wanted to get him with 2 counts of prostitution and not a big deal. And if they do bring up this information, which I don't know, we'll see if they will, I don't think that they're going to include this part. that they had to forego federal prosecution for 4 other co-conspirators and every other co-conspirator, I don't think that that's going to get brought up. Not too sure. That's probably going to get swept under the rug. No one's going to hear about it. Because the grand jury basically just wanted to get him for some solicitation. So I wanted to cover that. That's pretty important, the grand jury information. So next, let's get on to this black book that was revealed by Gawker. Gawker Media, which ended up getting bankrupt through lawfare, sponsored by Peter Thiel in an instance, in an instance with revealing the Hogan sex tape. Peter Thiel paid for Hulk Hogan's lawyer to sue Gawker out of existence. So, but before they went out, they released Jeffrey Epstein's little black book. It's redacted. I'm only showing the redacted version when we start going through these names because Gawker redacted it for a reason. They had lawyers looking at it and they did it for a reason. So I'm not about to live stream these actual phone numbers. If you guys want to go do that on your own time, I'm not going to promote that. We're just simply looking up all the names. I don't want people to be calling. I don't want to be responsible and be like, oh, well, he told me to do it. He told me to look up all the 1,500 names. It's not what I'm promoting here. So they have all of these redacted. And this was what I was telling you about how his black book got revealed by the property manager that was in fear of his life for whatever reason. I think he actually recently died a few years ago, so I think he took that to his grave for why he felt threatened enough to steal Epstein's black book as a property manager. But he ended up giving it to an attorney representing one of Epstein's victims. So we're going to start going through it. We left off at page 5. We left off right at like Alec Baldwin. Let's see, yeah, we left off at like Alec Baldwin here. And then, so let's go ahead and start looking these people up. First, we're going to save this here. Let's go ahead and look these people up. Let's see. Who's going to be the next one on the list here that we're actually going to look up? Because I really don't want to look up any common names because we're not going to get anything if we try to look up any common names. So, like Craig Barnett. I don't know. Craig Barnett kind of sounds like a famous person, though, doesn't it? Let's see. Who is Craig? Let's see who Craig Barnett is. And that's the thing. None of this includes guilt. So when we're looking people up, this does not include. This does not imply guilt. Okay. So we're just looking it up only because the director and the deputy director of the FBI both conflated the black book to being the client list on multiple occasions before they took their positions. So, and this is kind of the thing with these common names. Like, it could be multiple people here. We got the Australian model and TV personality. We got the Canadian ice hockey player. Who is this guy here? Running a church. A litigation attorney. Craig Barnett appears as an actor in minor roles in the Transformers. Alright, let's see who this actor is here in the Transformers. Craig Barnett. Does anybody remember who Craig Barnett is? It's a woman? No. No way Craig Barnett's a woman. Where is this guy's picture? This guy doesn't even have a picture in his... He was in Boston Legal. I feel like everybody in LA has probably been in Boston Legal, though. He was in the Transformers. He was the Air Force Major General. let's look up who this guy is here. Craig Barnett. We gotta see who this. He was an army general in Transformers. I have no idea, and I feel like I've seen Transformers like 100 times. Good flick. Yeah, see, I wouldn't even recognize this guy. I mean, Michael Bay makes some pretty good movies. Bad Boys, right? What? Shout out to Bad Boys. Yeah, I don't know who this guy is. If anybody knows Craig Barnett, possibly in Epstein's Little Black Book. Let's see who else he's got here. Let's see what the next name is. After Craig Barnett, Javier Bannon. Javier Bannon. There's probably not a lot of Javier Bannons. Let's see who this guy is. Javier Bannon, a European investment professional. That's probably who it is. Co-headed merchant banking. Most likely, a lot of these people are bankers, or they're in fashion, or they're actors. It's pretty much the circle at the top, apparently. Yeah, merchant banking. Let's see who else is on the list here. Doug Bands, huge contact list for Doug Bands. See who Doug Bands is. Lawyer. Whoa. An American lawyer and business executive best known for his cross-association with former President Bill Clinton and for founding the global advisory firm Temio. Whoa, another connection through President Clinton. Interesting. Sarasota, Florida. Simultaneously worked at the White House, starting as an intern in '95 while earning a master's in liberal arts. Wow, we got another White House person. So he's just not connected just through the presidents. And Tenio, this guy founded an investment bank. Just bankers and lawyers, actors and fashionistas. Whoa, that's wild. That's what I'm saying, and nobody is, you know, you hear about Alec Baldwin, you know, and you hear about these types, but you don't hear about Craig Bands, Doug Bands. So, let's see who else we got on the list. I think we, pretty much already did everybody else on the last one. Make sure you guys go check out part 1 if you haven't yet. If you guys want to see pages 1 through 5. Alright, so let's move on to page 6 here. Steve Benson. See, like a name like Steve Benson's probably not like... We could probably look it up anyway. Let's see who Steve Benson is. Cartoonist, artist too, fashionistas and artists. Let's see what he ended up writing. Pulitzer Prize for editorial cartooning. Let's see what else. LDS Church. estranged from the LDS Church. Yeah, interesting. Cartoonist. Let's see who else is on the list. Nicholas Bergeron. I do not think that person's getting confused with anybody else. Let's try his name. See if I spelled that right first try. Nope. You are... Let's see if I got his first name right. Colas. Let's see who this character is. Billionaire, investor, philanthropist, and thinker. Just the Billionaires Club. His black book is just the billionaires. The upper echelon. Let's see what this guy's about here. Berguen Holdings. Real estate, hedge funds, private equity. Thinker and philanthropist. Founded an institute focused on governance, democracy, globalization. This is just all the Paris-born billionaire. Globe-trotting investor. Okay. Part of me just wonders if I could just just hit these guys up when and interview any of them. You know? Like just an interview. Let me get an interview. You know, what do you know about this guy? Like what do you think about this guy? You know? Not telling anybody here to call any of these people, by the way. I want to make that a clear once again. So let's see who else we can call here. Bill Berkman. Yeah, maybe we can get some of these guys on the stream. Ask them some questions live on there. You know, that's the only way. I mean, that's journalism. That's the only way you can actually get a scoop is by, you know, kicking dust. So, let's see what we got here. U.S. communications and infrastructure entrepreneur, investor, notable career in building. Real estate, Harvard grad. Alright, let's see who else we got here. I don't know if it's Tim Natasha Bedstone or Tim and Natasha Bedstone. Let's try Tim Natasha Bedstone. Let's see. Oh yeah, Tim Natasha, that's about it. Appears in Jeffrey Epstein's little black book with 4 phone numbers. A UK company's house entry shows Natasha Jane Badstone, who serves as director across several companies. So it looks like somebody already tried pulling this thread. Seems like Tim Natasha Badstone is a misremembering or conflation. Tim Badstone and Natasha Badstone. Yeah, that's what I thought. It was like one or the other. UK company director. Let's see who. See him about this Natasha Badstone. Not a whole lot. This thing, you pull these threads and it doesn't really go anywhere sometimes. director of a whole bunch of holdings companies. Leisure Holdings, HBL Holdings, HBL Holdco. All these are still active too. Are they shell companies? I mean, obviously, just because ChatGPT may or may not say it doesn't necessarily mean it's true, but let's see what it says. If we could look up any filings and see if there's any long-standing company, regular account submissions, and board activity. Okay, well, there's another one. Let's see who else we got here. Boulevard Bismarck. Boulevard Bismarck. Jeffrey Epstein's, yeah. Black Book, once again. Is ChatGPT trying to run cover right now for these people? Is that what's going on? It just keeps on, oh yeah, it's somebody else in the Black Book. We just have no idea who it is. Yeah, okay, ChatGPT. We might have to switch it. We might have to refresh this page here. Because sometimes it's, because this is machine learning here. So the more data you input, you're training the data as it goes along. So I'm not necessarily trying to have it follow my footsteps here and finish my sentences. Alright, let's see here. I don't want it finishing my sentences. So we got Burleigh Robin. Well, I think we just skipped down a page. Oh no, I didn't. Okay. So we got Tara Bernard. No, it's only got one. See, that's the thing. When it's only got one phone number and a basic name, I almost don't even want to do that name because I just feel like it's not even going to come up. I mean, we're still so early into it where I feel like, let's see. Come on, home keys. Oh my gosh, did I just spell Tara Bernard completely wrong? No, I spelled it alright. American journalist. The New York Times. Whoa. We gotta see what articles she's written. Here's about personal finance. Let's see if she's written about politics. So I don't even want to ask about Epstein. I just want to see what's up. Has she written anything about politics? Yes, let's see what she's written. Personal finance and consumer stuff. Finance reporting. Legislative changing. Such as the overhaul of federal student loan repayment systems and the implications of tax and budget bills signed into law by Trump's administration. Okay. Interesting. So far we've had a high finance guy that was in Clinton's administration in Epstein's Black Book, and then we got this journalist here for the New York Times. Let's see what else we got here. We also got billionaires too that we've come across. So far we haven't even looked up that many names, and we're already coming up with these people that are just in the mix. Let's see what else we got here. Jean-Marc Bison. Let's see who this guy is. Oh, my dyslexia. Canadian actor. We got another actor here. Whoa. We gotta check this guy out. Let's see who this other actor is. That's 3 actors so far. We're only on page 6. We got 3 actors so far. Yeah, but what was he in The Bone Collector? I don't know what he was in. So, his IMDb isn't really that thorough. Not like Craig Barnett. See, that's the thing, is that this other guy here wasn't in Boston Legal, so maybe he's just a simple nobody, I don't know. So he was in 2001 A Space Travesty, Bone Collector. 2001 A Space Travesty. Okay, let's see what else we got on the list. 3 actors so far. World banker. Billionaires inside of Clinton's administration. We got a pretty full list for being on page 6. So now let's see Robin Bertolet. Let's see who Robin Bertolet is. An archaeologist? I might have spelled that wrong. No, I spelled it right. Yeah, I don't know. It's an archaeologist. Maybe it's just his archaeologist buddy. Alright, let's see what else we got here. Tamara Beckwith. She's only got 1 phone number though. See, it's like I don't even know if I even want to. Let's see, Tamara Beckwith. I think Craig Barnett only had one phone number too, though, and he turned out to be an actor in a bunch of movies. So let's see who Tamara Beckwith is. Tamara Beckwith, British socialite, television personality. Appeared in television programs including Loose Women. You can't make this up. In Epstein's Little Black Book. Wow, okay. So, she participated in the BBC. Oh, in BBC's Celebrity Scissorhands. I cracked myself up. She also appeared in The Vagina Monologues. Okay. Well, got 4 actors so far, and one is an actor, an actor of the night. All right. So let's see who else is in Epstein's Little Black Book here. Old Tara Bernard. Okay, Martin Birchall. Let's see who this guy is. British businessman. Okay. Director of the Romanian United Fund. I don't know, Romanian guy. Let's see. Who else do we got here? Lorenzo Balmer. Shell Oil Company employee. Ready, refresh. Let's see if I spelled that right. Oh, no, I didn't. A jeweler. High jewelry. Born in D.C. Yeah. Jewelry for Chanel. Interesting. Louis Vuitton. Artistic director of Louis Vuitton. I'm telling you. This black book is serious. Scott. Everybody. We're not even into page 6 yet. Let's see who else we got here. Jean-Paul Jourdain. Let's see who that is. Singer. Some more in entertainment, it looks like. Yeah, I went to the Juilliard School. Yeah. Let's see who else we got here. Lisa Beisberg. Or Bellsberg? Yeah, Lisa Bellsberg. I know I spelled that wrong. Let's see. No, I spelled it right. Oh, no, I didn't. New York City. Education. Teacher. I don't know, what is it? What grade level is the real question we're trying to find out here. What grade are you teaching, lady? That's what we want to know. Young adults. Okay, so not quite adults. Young adults with the skills, experience, and support to reach their potential. I don't know. I'm not saying anything, but I don't know. This is the first teacher we found in Epstein's Black Book. I wasn't really expecting that one, but I'm not that surprised, to say the least. There's that the 2013 gala. Alright. First teacher we got on the list here. Let's see what else we got here. I think that's it for this page. Or no, Baron Bentnick. Let's see who that is. Come on, ChatGPT, don't fail me now. Dutch nobility. We have more Dutch nobility. This is second Dutch nobility that we've come across so far. I'm only on page 6. Ambassador to France, United States, and Iceland. He was born the son of Baron Rudolf Floris Carrel. Wow, that's a long name. That's wild. More Dutch nobility. This is the second. The other one was a duke. I don't know if that's technically nobility. If you're a duke, I think you can be a nobility or non-nobility if you're a duke. But this guy is actual Dutch nobility and British nobility. Wow. I didn't know that you could be nobility of two different nations. I did not know that. Oh no, this is, what am I even talking about here? So this isn't the same person. This is just the title Baron Bentnick. Okay, so Baron okay, that makes sense. Baron can either be a first name or it can be the title of something. So I was thinking the guy's first name was Baron, but no, he is a Baron. So there's a few of them here. Jeez, I'm an idiot. Let's see which one it would most likely be. I don't know, since we already had the Dutch nobility in there, I would not be surprised if he was, see what all these guys are super old in the British nobility. So yeah, it's another Dutch noble. Or possibly another Dutch noble. The other guy was a duke. So let's see, I think we're done with this page here. Let's see what else we got. David Blaine's naming's in here? What? What? David Blaine. Old David Blaine. Just magically appeared in Epstein's Black Book. For those of you guys that don't know who David Blaine is, we're just going to look it up. He is a... I wouldn't even say David Blaine's even a magician. He just does a lot of weird stuff. He'll just like hang himself inside of an ice block above a city or something. Like he just, I don't know. He does some magic. I think he used to do like some street magic. But David Blaine just magically appeared in Epstein's Black Book. Daniel Bordini? Yeah, we gotta see who Daniel Bordini is. And while we wait, I'm just gonna do another quick shameless plug. If you guys want to support the channel, go ahead and check out any one of my books, and I'll leave the link inside the description. Alright, shameless plug. Alright, back to it. Let's see what else we got. So, David Blaine in New York. Yeah, see? Because this guy, Jeffrey Epstein's house that is now Howard Lutnick's house, is right there in front of Central Park. Right there. So, I'm not surprised to see a bunch of New Yorkers in there. Daniel Bordini. Let's see who Daniel Bordini is. Musician, composer, digital artist. Okay. Let's see where he's out of. Out of Brazil. Okay. That's actually, there was quite a few people from Brazil inside of here, actually. That's not the first person from Brazil. On the same page, on like page 4, there was like 4 or 5 people from Brazil. Christina A. Booth. Is there an E at the end of Booth? Did I just mess that up? No. Author, illustrator. It's not the only Booth, though. There's also Mark and Lauren Booth. Let's see. Who are her relatives? Let's see if I can cross-reference this with ChatGPT here and see if they can tell me if it's the same people. Mark and Lauren. Let's see if we can find Mark and Lauren inside of this little bio. Is she related to a Mark and Lauren? And if so, what do they do? Let's see if it's spelled with a K at the end of Mark. Yeah. ChatGPT searching TikTok right now. Let's see. Nah. Different Booths. Must be the family of John Wilkes. Let's see. Paulo Borghese. Let's see who Paulo Borghese is. Fashion again in Brazil. I'm telling you, these Brazilians, they just keep popping up. There's a lot of Brazilians inside of Epstein's Black Book. Interesting. This one's in fashion. Interesting. Brazil is massive for people that don't know, by the way. It is huge. So let's see what else we got here. Annabella. Oh, I can't see what that is. Annabella Bond. So there's also somebody in film here. Brazilian, Portuguese, which is Brazil. So whoever it is, it's out of Brazil. Interesting. Mike Bloomberg. The co-founder of Bloomberg is in Epstein's Black Book. The co-founder of Bloomberg is in Epstein's Black Book. That's the thing, is that Les Wexner just gave Epstein complete power of attorney. Les Wexner, the face behind Abercrombie and Fitch, the face behind Victoria's Secret, gave power of attorney to Jeffrey Epstein. And now he just has people in his Black Book. The co-founder of Bloomberg. Whoa. I don't think that's been publicized anywhere. Tony Blair? That name sounds familiar. Oh man, I'm not even on. Jeez. Sorry guys. That was a complete, utter failure. I just haven't even had this on the whole time. So, we just went through Epstein's little Black Book. And he is got the co-founder of Bloomberg in there. And now we've moved on to Tony Blair, British politician, Prime Minister of the UK. That's big too. Back-to-back names. Tony Blair, the Prime Minister of the UK, and then we also got the co-founder of Bloomberg. Back-to-back names. That's wild. I didn't know that the co-founder of Bloomberg was also the mayor of New York. Bloomberg served as the 108th mayor of New York. Wow. I did not know that. So you got the co-founder, Mike Bloomberg, inside of Epstein's Black Book, who's not only the co-founder of Bloomberg, but he was also the mayor of New York. That's wild. Tony Blair, British politician, Prime Minister of the UK, back-to-back names. Let's see who else we got on this list. Daniel Bodini. Let's see who else we got on here. I don't even want to go down the booths because we already asked about the booths. So Paulo Borghese, we already asked about that. Michael Borrico. Okay, Daniel Bordini, Italian-American businessman. We got another businessman here. Bordini served as San Marino's permanent representative to the United Nations. One of his helicopters crashed into an office building in Manhattan. Whoa. Wow. Somebody from the UN. Okay. Samantha Boardman. Let's see Samantha Boardman. Did I spell that right? Yep. Let's see what else we got here. Let's see who we're going to do next. Samantha Boardman. And then next, I think we're going to do Michael Borrico. New York-based psychiatrist. Interesting. Okay, Michael Borrico. Jeez, man. It's probably about time that we refresh this. Just because it's like as soon as you end up typing on the same thing, it just ends up spazzing out every single time. Okay, so that was a psychiatrist. Let's see who is Michael Borrico. Yeah, you gotta refresh the prompt every once in a while, because otherwise it just ends up not wanting to cooperate. Sometimes it'll give you the same responses over and over again, or sometimes it'll just give you false information. Let's see. New York-based contractor and businessman Michael Borrico, certified in New York construction. His influence extends into the art world as well. Private art shows at his home. Featuring the works of artist Domingo Zapata, which was attended by notable figures including Financier George Soros. Interesting. Michael Borrico, associate of George Soros. Interesting. Let's see who else we got here. Blacker, Blogs and Jill Blacker. Let's see who's Blogs Blacker? That cannot be somebody's real name. That cannot be somebody's real name. Blogs Blacker. Yeah, there's no way that was actually the real name. Alright, let's see. Edward de Bosgelen. Let's see who that is. Bosgelen. Edward de Bosgelen. No way. Somebody born in like 1800s. Alright, that one's just gonna have to be for the mysteries, I guess. David Blaine, Tony Blair, Mike Bloomberg. Back to back to back. That's wild. Alright, I think we can go to the next page here. We're on page 7, finally. 7 out of 100. Ben Bram. Let's see who Ben Bram is. Emmy-winning vocal arranger, producer, engineer, based out of New York and Los Angeles. Ben Bram. Won some Grammys, won some Emmys. Interesting. Alright, who else do we got? Flavio Briatore. This one is circled, or I should say squared. Who is Flavio Briatore? Let's see. Flavio Briatore. This guy has his name squared in Epstein's Black Book. Let's see who this character is. First, let's see who we're gonna do next. Dada Brandolini. Dada Brandolini. We could try him next. I don't see there's too many people getting confused. I wonder if he just, because this all just sounds like very Italian. Does he have it just separated into like Brazil, Italians? No, I don't think so, because I don't think so. It's yeah, Italian businessman, Formula One team principal, which is like racing. So he's a race car driver. Okay. Let's see who this guy is. How do you pronounce that? Dada? Dada Brandolini? Finance, political science. Interesting. Alright guys, I think we're going to end this here on page 7. And we're going to pick up, we are going to pick up later. So make sure to like and subscribe, and check out the book, support the channel, leave a comment, let me know what you think, and we're going to pick up in part 3 on page 7. So, it's a pretty good stream. Alright.